Welcome to the morning after CFFL edition, Week 8. Here to talk to you today about the week that was in the CFFL and also reveal the new FCS rankings with a new number 1 this week. Let's first get into the action from Week 8. Week 8 saw In Rogers We Trust take down Bernie's Bruisers 83.5 to 79.5. That snaps the Bernie's Bruisers 5-game win streak. Emmanuel Sanders had a huge week for Team In Rogers We Trust with 25 points, while Rivers and Forte combined for 34.5 for the Bruisers, as it wasn't enough as DeMarco Murray put him over the top Monday night. The Bone Storm took down the Garbage Men 77 to 60. Andrew Luck had another great performance with 23 points, but Tom Brady outdueled him at 28 points for the Bone Storm. Cardinals took down the Badgers 84 to 62.5. The newest member of the Cardinals, Team Gronk, thanks Chad, had 26 points. Golden Tate had 14.5 points for the Badgers, but it wasn't enough. The Cardinals prevail and move to 4-4 and stay in the playoff race. Horn Dogs fall to Team LBM 82 to 75. Andy Dalton and Mark Ingram, who was the big trade piece in the Gronk trade, combined for 33 points. Jeremy Macklin had a massive game with 22 points, but it wasn't enough for the Horn Dogs as they drop their third straight. The Black Dingoes rolled the Donkeys 106 to 55. Donkeys fall to 1-7 on the year. Arian Foster 27.5 points. Graham Gano, the only donkey with double-digit points this week. And finally this week we had the upset of the week as Griffs Gargoyles take down the Kongs 95.5 to 66.5. The Gargoyles were a 6.5 point underdog. Miami's defense / special teams had 17 points for the Gargoyles. A lot of players of his had a good week this week. The Kongs really, Peyton Manning was the one who carried him with 17.5 points, but it wasn't enough as the Kongs fall to 3-5. So that's the week that was. As you know, there was a trade this week. Gronk was traded for Justin Hunter and Mark Ingram. Chad, you would have made the walk of shame this week had Mark Ingram not had a good day. Justin Hunter did also score a touchdown. Did say, Chad, I don't know if this is a good deal. I don't know if you want to do it. I'm probably getting the better end. And as Gronk was throwing the Bears around the field, I'm sure Chad was thinking the same thing. But he did need a running back, and the way Mark Ingram looked, it probably won't be as unbalanced as it looked on the start of the day on Sunday, or mid-afternoon Sunday. On to the Player of the Week. Player of the Week this week, Ben Roethlisberger, who was on the Garbage Men's bench, had 36 points off of 6 touchdowns, 522 yards passing. Really his first good game of the year, so it's hard to start him, but still a massively good game for him. Walk of shame, like I said, Chad, you were almost on here, but since Ingram had a good day, I think point-wise, I think they evened out all the 2 for 1 there. But Cam Newton for the Donkeys, who are 1-7 and need to be represented here. 4 points, 171 yards passing. That's 2 bad games in a row. Rough game for Cam Newton and for the Donkeys. Now on to Griffs Gripes for the week. We'll take a look at Matthew Berry and his love-hate column that he does every week. And Matthew Berry feeling that he needs to make it a novel every week. So what does Griff think of that? Dear Matthew Berry, please remember that you are a fantasy writer, not a novelist. We do not need 10 paragraphs of drivel before you get to your love-hate list for the week. You are only right about 50% of the time anyway. Oh yeah, and nice trade, Chad. So, sorry, Chad. Yeah, everyone's kind of piling on you for that one. Probably expected that. Again, like I said, with the 3 touchdowns for Gronk. Maybe you'll have your last laugh when Gronk gets hurt for the 7th straight year or whatever it is for him. Yo Bitch, top free agent pickup of the week. Martavis Bryant, who had probably an inflated game and probably won't do that again this year. 83 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns, but still that was the best game of the week. So he will probably be the top free agent pickup this week. Now we will get to the FCS rankings. We had a shakeup this week as one team now is on pace to break the most points per week in a season. A big win for them. They don't have the top record, but they do have the top spot in the rankings, and that is Dino's Black Dingoes moving into number 1. Tied for second, Bernie's Bruisers, Bites' Badgers, and In Rogers We Trust. And coming in 5th in the rankings are the Madison Bone Storm. Bone Storm still in the thick of the playoff chase. They are not a cinch at all to make it, but they are in there right now. And the next grouping, we'll see the teams that are kind of scraping by and trying to keep their heads above water. The Horn Dogs, the Cardinals, the Gargoyles, the Garbage Men. The Horn Dogs fell from tied for second all the way to sixth this week in the rankings. A little bit of a struggle these last couple weeks for the Horn Dogs. Gargoyles fall from 7 to 8. The Gronk trade propelled the Cardinals ahead, and also the Tony Romo injury, although he did come back, caused them to slip a little. Garbage Men move up from 10 to 9, just because of their record. Kongs fall out of the rankings. Team Albion moves in, even without the Gronk trade. His running backs of Mark Ingram and Denard Robinson are now significantly better than they were, and the Donkeys bringing up the rear of the rankings. So I hope everyone enjoys the rankings. It should be a fun way to kind of keep track of who's looking good for the playoffs and who isn't. Let's finally take a look at the week ahead, and then we will say goodbye for the week. The week ahead brings us the Bruisers and the Badgers in the power rankings. They're tied for second. And also we see the Gargoyles, number 7, take on the number 8, the Gargoyles, against number 1 in the rankings, the Black Dingoes. Will that go to their head? Will they be able to focus? We'll see. In the week that was, again, Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless are still going to talk about that this week. That wasn't a flub on my part at all. I didn't forget to change that. So no, they're going to talk about it every week. That is the topic on conversation, I think, on First Take or whatever they're calling that. So I'm sure that'll be hotly contested. No one cares about the World Series Game 6 tonight or the NBA season starting, whatever. Or the real college football rankings. No, they're going to be talking about our rankings because that's what's really happening in the world. So goodbye, everyone. See you next week after Week 9 in the CFFL. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.